The alarms thundered across Earth's orbital defense station Aegis, echoing through every corridor. Red lights flashed and the soft hum of machinery turned into a chorus of urgency. Every officer on duty stopped what they were doing. Something unknown had entered the solar system. In the command center, Captain Robert Wilson rushed through the heavy doors, his boots striking the floor in a steady rhythm. His expression was calm, but his eyes carried the sharp focus of a soldier who had seen too much. "Report," he ordered, his voice cutting through the noise. Lieutenant Sarah Davis looked up from her console, her hands moving quickly across glowing holographic controls. "Sir, we're detecting an unidentified vessel at the edge of the system. No transponder, no identification signal. It's just there." Captain Wilson frowned. "Hostile movement?" "None so far." "It's not attacking," Davis replied. "In fact, it's broadcasting something." The massive view screen came alive. A sleek, silver vessel appeared, its hull scorched and torn, drifting slowly through the void like a wounded animal. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly with blue light. The ship was clearly not human. A silent tension filled the room. For decades, humanity had expanded into nearby star systems, colonies, mining outposts, scientific stations, but never, not once, had they met another intelligent race. Until now. "Play the transmission," Wilson said. The speakers crackled and a distorted voice echoed through the command deck. "We beg for help, our worlds are burning." The message repeated again and again. No demands. No threats. Just a desperate plea filled with pain. For a long moment no one spoke. Even the usual hum of machinery seemed to fade into silence. Wilson finally turned to his communications officer. "Send word to Earth. Priority 1. First contact." Within hours, the United Earth Defense Council was assembled through holographic link. Leaders, generals, scientists, all gathered in a shimmering circle of light. The air was filled with tension, suspicion, and fear. "This could be a trick," warned General Martinez, his tone cold and direct. "A way to test our defenses." President Anna Lee, calm and thoughtful, watched the alien image on the screen. The ship looked weak, but appearances could deceive. "Or it could be a cry for help," she said quietly. "Captain Wilson, what's your recommendation?" Wilson hesitated for only a moment. "We allow them to dock, under heavy guard. If this is genuine, we may be witnessing history. If it's not, we'll be ready." After a long silence, President Lee nodded. "Permission granted. Proceed with caution." 6 human warships surrounded the alien vessel as it approached Aegis Station. Their weapons were charged, targeting systems locked. The world watched through live transmissions. Scientists, soldiers, and citizens holding their breath as the first alien ship in history neared human steel. Inside the docking bay, teams of soldiers waited in formation, rifles ready but not raised. The metal airlock door hissed and slowly opened. Steam rolled across the floor. Then, from the mist, a tall figure emerged. The alien stood nearly 7 feet tall, his skin pale blue and faintly glowing under the lights. 4 arms hung at his sides and his eyes, large, black, and glassy, moved slowly as he studied the humans before him. Every motion was deliberate, cautious. The soldiers tensed, but the alien raised his upper hands, palms open. "I am Velen, representative of the Tall Confederation," he said through a small device attached to his chest. His voice carried a deep echo, tired and strained. "We thank you for receiving us, in these dark times." His tone was heavy with sorrow, and even through the translator, it sounded painfully real. Captain Wilson stepped forward, standing tall. "Welcome aboard Aegis Station, Ambassador Velen. State your purpose." Velen's gaze met his. The alien's eyes shimmered as if holding back something. Fear, maybe even guilt. "Our worlds are dying," he said simply. "We come seeking help." He reached to his belt and activated a small holographic projector. A map of the stars bloomed into the air, filled with dozens of points of light. Many of them were dark, fading, or burning red. "These were our colonies," Velen said softly. "Our cities, our families. All destroyed by an empire we cannot stop." The images shifted. Flames across planets, fleets shattered in orbit, billions fleeing in panic. "They call themselves the Moors Empire. They do not conquer, they exterminate." Wilson felt a chill crawl down his spine. The council members watching through hologram feeds looked grim. Velen turned back to the humans. "We have heard your broadcast. We have studied your history. You know war in ways the rest of the galaxy has forgotten." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "We hoped that when the day came, you would remember who you are." For a moment no one moved. The silence was heavy, almost sacred. Finally, President Lee's voice came through the speakers. Ambassador Velen, humanity will consider your request. But tell me, why do you say your worlds are burning? Who are they? Velen looked up. The faint scars on his neck began to glow softly as he spoke his final words. Because they are coming, and when they finish with us. He looked directly into the camera, his eyes filled with dread. They will come for you next. The transmission cut to black. And in that single haunting moment humanity realized, the universe was not empty, it was screaming for help. The conference chamber aboard Aegis station was silent except for the faint hum of the air filters. Outside the large windows, Earth glowed like a blue jewel, calm, distant, unaware of the decision that could change everything. Ambassador Velen stood at the center of the room, surrounded by guards and holographic projections. His long fingers trembled slightly as he adjusted the translator device on his chest. Across the table sat the most powerful people of humanity, President Anna Lee, Admiral Reed, General Martinez, and several council members. All eyes were on Velen. Ambassador, President Lee began, her tone calm but firm, you said your people are dying. We need to understand what exactly you're asking of us. Velen nodded slowly. He raised one of his four hands and activated a small device. A soft blue light filled the chamber as a massive holographic map of the galaxy appeared, rotating slowly in the air. This, Velen said quietly, is the Tall Confederation. 12 species. 12 worlds united for peace and progress. The hologram zoomed in, showing bright dots representing star systems, each one connected by faint lines. But several of the lights were flickering, and many were already dark. Velen's voice wavered as he continued, for centuries we lived in harmony. We built, we learned, and we believed war was a thing of the past. He paused, his dark eyes staring into the glowing map. Then they came. With a gesture, the hologram shifted. The lights darkened, replaced by fire and shadow. Giant black warships appeared, monstrous designs with serrated edges, leaving trails of destruction behind them. The Moors' empire, Velen said, his voice barely more than a whisper. They rose from the outer dark. No one knows their true origin. They expand without reason, without mercy. They do not conquer, they destroy. The humans in the room watched as the holographic image replayed the horrors. Cities burning, alien civilians running through ruined streets, fleets being torn apart by waves of red energy. Velen's tone grew heavier. They erase everything that is not them. 3 civilizations have already been wiped from existence. 5 others are enslaved. The rest of us, we are running out of time. The projection dimmed, leaving the chamber bathed in a cold blue glow. Admiral Reed leaned forward, his voice deep and steady. Why come to us? He asked. There must be others, older, stronger, more advanced civilizations out there. Velen's large eyes blinked slowly. There are. But they have rules, laws written long ago to prevent war. They refuse to fight. Their fleets are small, ceremonial. Their weapons were dismantled generations ago. They watch us burn and they do nothing. He looked at the humans and for a moment his voice broke. We came to you because you understand what war means. We have studied your broadcasts, your history, your battles, your victories and your tragedies. You are a violent species, but you fight for what you believe in. You fight to survive. The room went quiet. The council members exchanged uneasy looks. President Lee's expression softened, but her tone remained cautious. You're asking humanity to fight your war, she said. Velen shook his head slowly. No. I'm asking you to fight our war. Because if we fall, you will be next. The Moors do not stop. He raised his hand again and the hologram shifted once more, this time showing a massive wave of red light spreading across the galaxy, pushing closer and closer to human space. Our sensors show that in 15 of your Earth years, their fleets will reach your colonies. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The map made it clear, the Moors were coming. Humanity's corner of the galaxy would soon be in their path. General Martinez slammed his fist on the table. If this is true, then waiting is suicide. We need to prepare now. But another council member shook his head. And risk everything based on the word of one alien? This could be manipulation, a way to drag us into a war that isn't ours. The debate ignited instantly, voices overlapping, opinions clashing. The holograms flickered from the heat of the discussion. Velen stood silently watching. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes reflected exhaustion, and something else, hope. Finally, President Lee raised her hand. Enough. The room fell silent. She turned to Admiral Reed. What's your assessment? Reed studied the data displayed on the screens. The evidence was compelling. The star charts matched known patterns, the damage consistent with real planetary bombardments. After a long pause he said, "It looks real. If their data is correct, the Moors will reach human space within 15 years. Maybe less." Lee took a deep breath. "Then we have a decision to make." The room fell into silence again. Every person there knew the weight of what was coming. If they intervened, humanity would enter its first interstellar war. If they did nothing, they might be next. Hours passed. Arguments rose and fell. Finally, the council requested privacy. Velen was escorted out by guards and taken to a quiet waiting chamber. He sat alone, staring at the stars through the small window. His breathing was slow, his hands clasped tightly together. In his heart he feared the answer would be no. He had seen too many worlds turn away, too many promises broken. Then the door opened. Captain Wilson entered, his face unreadable. "Ambassador," he said, "the council has reached a decision." Velen stood slowly, his voice trembling. "And what have they decided?" Wilson met his gaze, then stepped aside as President Lee and Admiral Reed entered behind him. President Lee's tone was firm but calm. "Humanity has decided to accept your request for aid." Velen's eyes widened. Relief washed over his face. "You will help us?" Admiral Reed stepped forward. His expression was like stone. "You misunderstand, Ambassador. We don't just help." He leaned closer, his voice low and unshakable. "When humanity goes to war, we fight to win." The lights in the room dimmed. Velen stared in silence as realization spread across his face. The species he had come to for help was not one that offered mercy. It was one that brought finality. Outside the window, Earth rotated slowly beneath them, beautiful, peaceful, and unaware that its children had just declared war among the stars. The great chamber of the United Earth Defense Council was filled with tense silence. The holographic table in the center displayed the galaxy, blue stars, red zones of war, and the slow, creeping line of destruction spreading from the outer rim. Around the table sat the most powerful leaders of humanity: President Anna Lee, Admiral Reed, General Martinez, Director of Intelligence Harper, and delegates from all 7 human colonies. No one spoke for several long seconds. The weight of Velen's warning still hung heavy in the air. At last, President Lee broke the silence. "You have all seen the data. The Moors' empire has already destroyed 8 civilizations. If they continue at this rate, their fleets will reach human space in less than 15 years. Her voice was calm but carried a hard edge. "We must decide, will humanity stand aside or will we act?" Admiral Reed leaned forward, hands clasped. "Madam President, we've analyzed the ambassador's files. They're authentic. The enemy's fleet size, weapon energy readings, all match real physics. This is no trick. The Moors are real and they're coming." General Martinez slammed his hand on the table. "Then there's nothing to discuss. We should mobilize the fleets and strike first. If we wait, they'll hit us when we're not ready." A council member from Mars Colony shook her head. "And risk billions of lives in a war that isn't ours? The tall Confederation could be using us as their shield. Let them fight their own battles." Another voice rose from the lunar representative. "We've just finished rebuilding after the colony wars. We cannot afford another conflict. Not yet." The chamber erupted into debate, voices overlapping, tension rising. Arguments of fear, pride, and strategy collided like thunder. President Lee closed her eyes for a moment, letting the noise wash over her. Then she stood. "Enough." Her single word silenced the room. The holographic galaxy flickered between light and shadow as she looked around at each leader in turn. "We've always known that one day humanity would meet others among the stars. We hoped for peace, but we should have expected this." She paused, her gaze steady. "If the Moors destroy everyone else, they will not stop at our borders. You've all seen their pattern. They consume. They enslave. They leave nothing behind." The Martian delegate spoke again, quieter now. "So what do you suggest, Madam President?" Lee took a deep breath. "We prepare. We fight. And we do it on our terms, not theirs." Admiral Reed rose from his seat. His uniform was perfectly pressed, but his voice carried the weight of years of war. "Madam President, the tall Confederation has technology we can learn from: faster warp drives, long-range plasma weapons, and data on the enemy's tactics. If we join them now, we can upgrade our fleets, train our forces, and be ready before the Moors reach us." Director Harper added quietly. "And the intelligence confirms the Confederation is losing ground fast. If they fall, the Moors will have no opposition between their frontier and our colonies." General Martinez nodded reluctantly. Then we strike together. Humans don't fight to survive, we fight to win. The council murmured in agreement. One by one, voices that had argued for caution now turned to support the plan. Fear had transformed into resolve. Finally, President Lee looked toward the chamber door. "Bring in the ambassador," she said. Moments later, Velen entered the room, escorted by Captain Wilson and 2 guards. His tall figure seemed smaller now, weighed down by exhaustion. He looked at the human faces, unsure what fate awaited him. President Lee stood. "Ambassador Velen, we have reached our decision." Velen bowed his head slightly. "And what have you decided?" Lee's expression softened, but her tone remained steady. "Humanity accepts your plea. We will not let the Moors destroy your people." For the first time, Velen's eyes brightened. A flicker of relief crossed his face. "You will fight with us?" he asked. Before the president could answer, Admiral Reed stepped forward, his boots echoing on the floor. His voice was calm but cold, the voice of a man who had already made peace with war. "You misunderstand, Ambassador." He stopped directly in front of Velen, looking up at the towering alien. "We don't fight with allies. We fight for victory. When humanity goes to war, we don't do half measures. We fight until the enemy is ashes." The words hung heavy in the room. Even the alien guards behind Velen looked uneasy. Velen blinked slowly. "Then, you will commit your forces fully?" Reed nodded once. "Completely." Across the galaxy, the tall Confederation had expected hesitation, maybe negotiations, maybe politics. But not this. When the humans said yes, they didn't mean aid. They meant war. Within hours, encrypted messages were transmitted to every fleet and colony. Factories were reactivated. War plans were drafted. The orders spread like wildfire through human space. The old fears of Earth's history, long buried after the colony conflicts, awoke again. For the first time in a century, humanity had an enemy worth uniting against. President Lee stood at the observation window, watching Earth turn below. The clouds drifted peacefully, the cities sparkled with light, unaware that their fate had just changed. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" she asked quietly. Admiral Reed joined her, hands behind his back. "No, Madam President," he said. "We're doing what's necessary." She nodded slowly. Outside, distant lights marked the paths of warships already leaving orbit. In the cold dark beyond the stars, the Moors' empire was still advancing, unaware that the next species they would face had a history written in blood, fire, and defiance. For the first time in centuries, humanity was at war again. And this time the galaxy would learn what that truly meant. The message spread faster than light. From the frozen domes of Europa to the red deserts of Mars, from the orbiting colonies above Earth to the shipyards in Titan's black sky, every human outpost received the same encrypted transmission. Priority 1 directive: mobilize all defense and industrial sectors. Humanity is entering a state of total war. For a moment, the galaxy fell silent. Then humanity moved. Factories that had slept for decades roared back to life. Old orbital stations, once museums of past wars, became command hubs again. Engineers and AI systems awakened ancient blueprints from Earth's hidden archives. Blueprints marked classified: Project Aegis, Project Titan, Project Valhalla. The war machine of humanity began to turn. On Earth, President Anna Lee addressed the world. Her image was broadcast to every screen. Billions watched in silence. "We were asked for mercy," she began, voice steady and strong. "But mercy without strength is meaningless. An enemy moves through the stars. One that destroys without reason, one that will not stop until every voice of freedom is gone. Today we stand with those who begged for help. But tomorrow, we fight for the survival of all." Her words echoed through every colony and shipyard. Children stopped to listen. Soldiers saluted their screens. In the shadows of space, thousands of ships began to take shape. Rocket, the rebirth of the fleet. At Lunar Shipyard Alpha, massive hangar doors opened, revealing the first of Earth's new warships. The U.S. Dauntless. A battleship longer than 3 kilometers, its hull gleaming with new alloy plating. Inside the command bay, Admiral Reed walked among engineers and officers. "We'll need 1,000 of these before the first engagement," he said. Chief Engineer Asha Patel looked up from her console. "Then we'd better work without sleep, sir?" Reed allowed himself a rare smile. "That's the spirit of humanity. We always build faster when someone says we can't." In orbit above Titan, a fleet of mining drones tore through ice fields, harvesting rare elements for plasma reactors. On Mars, the great domed cities became command centers, coordinating military production across the solar system. Even the smallest colonies, Luna Base, Ceres Station, the free habitats, sent volunteers. No one was forced. No one needed to be. The fear of extinction had united them. Satellite first contact, military alliance. Velen, the alien ambassador, stood on the observation deck of Aegis Station, watching in silence as ships rose from Earth's surface like silver arrows. His people had expected hesitation, maybe arguments, but not this. The humans did not waste time. They did not argue about morality or politics. They simply prepared to fight. Captain Wilson joined him. "You look surprised," he said. Velen's forearms crossed. "I am unsettled. We asked for help, but your people are preparing for annihilation. Why such fury? Why such speed?" Wilson looked out at the endless black sky. "Because we've been here before. Every time humanity faced extinction, we didn't die quietly. We adapted, we fought, we evolved. That's what we do." Velen turned to him, eyes glowing faintly. "Perhaps that is why the Moors fear you already, and they don't even know it." Geared the hidden arsenal. Deep beneath the sands of the Sahara Desert, an ancient vault opened for the first time in 100 years. Inside slept the old AI warship command cores, sealed after the colony wars. "Reactivate sequence," the technician ordered. One by one, dormant lights flickered to life. Voices, cold and mechanical, echoed through the chamber. "Core Alpha online. Weapons grid active. Awaiting fleet synchronization." In Antarctica, Project Helios, a solar defense ring abandoned after peace treaties, was reactivated. Massive orbital cannons aligned themselves toward deep space, tracking distant stars. The world's oceans too became shipyards. Underwater factories produced stealth submarines capable of launching into orbit. Humanity wasn't just preparing for a war in space, they were ready for a war everywhere. Milky Way, the oath of the fleet. When the first 100 ships of the United Earth Armada gathered near Jupiter, they formed a formation so massive it dimmed the stars behind them. Admiral Reed addressed the assembled crews through a universal broadcast. "You are the first line. You are the sword of humanity. Our allies have fallen, their worlds burned. But not us. We will not bow. We will not run. Let the Moors come, and when they do, they will learn what it means to fight humans." Cheers erupted across the fleet. Some wept. Others clenched their fists. For the first time they felt the weight of destiny, not just to defend Earth but to save everything worth saving. Velen watched from the observation deck, whispering softly in his alien tongue. "May your wrath light the stars. Shooting star, the calm before the storm." Night fell over Earth. Cities glowed softly beneath the stars. In the sky, streaks of light marked ships leaving orbit, a silent promise written in fire. President Lee stood alone in her office, the planet reflected in the glass before her. Her aide entered quietly. "Madam President, the fleets are ready." She nodded. "Then history begins now." The aide hesitated. "Do you think the galaxy will remember us as heroes, or monsters?" Lee's reflection smiled faintly. "That depends on who survives to tell the story." She turned to face the rising dawn. Outside, humanity's armada awaited orders. And somewhere, far beyond the edge of known space, the Moors' empire was already moving, unaware that a new power was rising, forged not from conquest, but from desperation, unity, and fire. Humanity had answered the call for help, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The edge of known space was quiet. Too quiet. Beyond Pluto's orbit, the UES Vigilant, a long-range scout frigate, floated in the dark. Captain Elena Drake watched the empty starfield on her display. The sensors were clean, until suddenly they weren't. A ripple of distortion appeared on the far edge of her screen. Then another. Then 20. "Contact. Multiple warp signatures inbound." Her sensor officer shouted. "No transponders. Energy spikes off the charts." Drake's pulse quickened. "All hands to battle stations. Send an immediate relay to command." Code red, unknown fleet entering the system. Outside, space tore open like shattered glass. Sleek black warships emerged one after another, curved hulls, red energy lines glowing like molten veins. Each ship was 3 times the size of the Vigilant. Their weapons hummed with dark light. "The Moors," Drake whispered. "Warning, first contact, first blood." The Moors' empire had finally arrived. Their scouts had found the outer rim of human territory, and they came to test it. "Shields up," Drake ordered. The crew scrambled, alarms blaring. The first plasma bolt hit seconds later, shaking the ship. Panels exploded, smoke filled the bridge. "Return fire." Target nearest hostile. The vigilance cannons roared, firing streams of blue plasma across the void. The shots hit dead center, but the enemy ship barely flinched. Its black armor seemed to drink the energy. "They're toying with us," the weapons officer said grimly. Drake's jaw tightened. "Then let's make it expensive." She turned to her comm officer. "Transmit everything we've got, sensor logs, energy readings, visuals, then boost it to the Aegis relay. If we don't make it, they'll know what's coming." Outside, a swarm of enemy fighters detached from the Moor's ships, surrounding the Vigilant like vultures. Her crew kept fighting. Even when the shields failed. Even when the hull began to glow red from heat. "Captain, we're losing containment." "Then keep firing," she shouted back. "We go down fighting." The last transmission that reached Earth was Drake's voice, calm, defiant. "To any human ship receiving this, tell them, they've found us." Then silence. Police car light Earth receives the message. Hours later, deep inside the United Earth Command Center, Admiral Reed stood before a holographic projection of the battle logs. The images were grainy, full of static, but unmistakable. He watched the Vigilant vanish in a bloom of white light. "They're here," Reed said quietly. President Anna Lee appeared via HoloLink. "How many ships?" Reed studied the data. 30, maybe more. "Small fleet. Probably a vanguard force." "Then they're testing our borders," she said. Reed nodded. "Yes. And they just declared war." Orders were issued within minutes. All patrol fleets repositioned. Planetary defenses activated. The massive UES Dauntless and her sister ships began their first deployment. The calm before the storm was over. Gear the trap at Jupiter. 3 days later, the Moor's fleet reached the orbit of Jupiter. They moved silently, scanning the gas giant's moons, unaware that humanity was waiting. Hidden among the magnetic storms of Jupiter's shadow, a human task force lay in ambush. Fleet Commander Reyes, leading the UES Dauntless, Titan, and Odin, along with 50 escort ships. Reyes studied the holographic display. "Enemy fleet entering range. They don't know we're here." "Orders, sir?" his second-in-command asked. "We show them what humans call a welcome party." He leaned forward. "Launch the drones." Thousands of stealth drones detached from hidden carriers, surrounding the enemy formation in a silent web. Each one carried a warhead powerful enough to crack a destroyer. "Targets locked," the AI reported. "Authorization. Reyes Alpha Code. Fire." The black void lit up with thousands of flashes. Explosions rippled through the Moor's vanguard. Half their fleet vanished before they could raise shields. The survivors returned fire blindly, unleashing chaos. Human ships emerged from Jupiter's shadow, guns blazing. The Dauntless fired her main rail cannon. A projectile the size of a city bus tore through the nearest Moor battleship, slicing it clean in half. "They thought we were prey," Riz muttered. "Now they know better." Fire humanity's fury unleashed. Across the battle zone, human ships fought with a ferocity the Moors had never seen. Even when damaged, they didn't retreat. They rammed. They sacrificed. They adapted. One more commander tried to open a comm channel. His image flickered on the Dauntless bridge, scaled skin, burning eyes, voice full of contempt. "Humans, you think this small victory matters? We are eternal. We." Reyes cut the signal. "Fire all batteries." The alien ship vanished in a storm of plasma fire. After 4 brutal hours, silence returned. The debris of alien ships drifted among Jupiter's moons. Only 3 human vessels were lost. Reyes stared at the wreckage. "Send word to command. The enemy bleeds." Satellite aftermath. The message to the galaxy. Back on Aegis Station, Velen stood beside Admiral Reed as reports arrived. "You destroyed their vanguard?" Velen asked, eyes wide. "Completely," Reed replied. "They'll send more. But now they know who we are." Velen lowered his voice. "You humans, you fight like fire. The Moors will not understand you until it's too late." Reed looked at the stars beyond the viewport. "Good. Let them come." Moments later, the president's address echoed across all human networks, and through allied channels across half the galaxy. "This is President Anna Lee of Earth. We did not choose this war, but we will end it. To our enemies, you will find no slaves here, no broken worlds. You will find only fire." The broadcast ended with the image of humanity's fleet, thousands of ships standing ready. Milky Way end scene. In the cold darkness beyond Jupiter, a single Moor probe drifted, transmitting what it saw back to its empire. A human armada burning like a new constellation. Far away, deep in the Moors' home sector, an alien warlord received the feed. He watched the humans fight, reckless, fierce, united, and felt for the first time in centuries, fear. Prepare the full invasion, he hissed. Burn their worlds. Every last one. He did not know it yet. But by challenging humanity, the Moors had awakened something ancient and unstoppable. A fire that would consume empires. The stars burned brighter that year. Or maybe it only seemed that way because the galaxy was on fire. After the Battle of Jupiter, the name humanity spread across 100 worlds. The Moors called them the Burning Ones. Others whispered the word with hope. For the first time in centuries, someone had fought the Moors, and won. Globe showing Europe-Africa a new kind of war. Admiral Reed stood in the war room aboard the UES Dauntless, watching the holographic map of the galaxy. Red zones marked the Moors' empire, a spreading plague of conquered systems. Blue zones, tiny but growing, marked humanity's new alliance. We can't defend forever, Reed said. We hit them before they rebuild. We take the fight to their worlds. Across the table, Velen of the Tall Confederation bowed his head. Our people will follow your lead, Admiral. You've shown us courage we thought lost. Reed nodded once. Then we move at dawn. And thus began Operation Dawnfire, humanity's first interstellar offensive. Rocket the march to war. Fleets of warships left Earth's orbit like a swarm of silver arrows. Each one carried the same emblem, a blue sphere surrounded by a burning flame, the mark of humanity. Every ship, every soldier, every engineer knew the plan. They would strike deep into more territory, liberate enslaved worlds, and destroy their shipyards. It was insane. It was impossible. It was exactly the kind of plan humans were born for. Fire the liberation of Varnies 4. The first target was Varnies 4, a once beautiful world now enslaved by the Moors. Its cities burned day and night to fuel the Empire's war machine. Millions of prisoners toiled under watchtowers that never slept. When the human fleet arrived, they didn't announce themselves. They simply appeared above the planet, guns armed, engines silent. All ships, hold position, ordered Captain Robert Wilson, commanding the assault fleet. Let them look up and see us first. Down on the surface, the slaves paused mid-work. They saw shadows moving across the clouds, not black like more warships but silver, glowing with blue light. And then, over the loudspeakers of every human ship, a single broadcast played. To all who still resist, this is the United Earth Armada. Your chains end today. The bombardment began. Precision strikes hit the Moor defense towers, their black armor cracking under railgun fire. Dropships rained from orbit, carrying human marines in heavy armor. They moved like ghosts, silent, efficient, relentless. The Moors tried to fight back, but they were unprepared for human tactics. They expected fear, retreat, chaos. Instead, they met soldiers who fought in perfect coordination, backed by AI artillery, orbital support, and pure rage. Within 6 hours, Varnies 4 was free. Here the alliance forms. News of the victory spread across the stars. Other enslaved species began to rise. Ships bearing the banners of the Tall Confederation, the Run Collective, and the Eltari Republic joined humanity's fleet. In the Grand Hall of Aegis Station, representatives from 12 worlds gathered. Admiral Reed stood at the center. We fight for freedom, he said, voice echoing through the chamber. Not just for humans. For every voice the Moors tried to silence. Today the galaxy has a choice, kneel or stand. We choose to stand. Velen stepped forward and placed his four-fingered hand on the table. Then let the stars bear witness. The Confederation stands with Earth. And just like that, a new alliance was born. The Coalition of the Free Systems. Cross-swords the Moors strike back. But the Moors would not fall quietly. 3 months later, their armadas emerged from hyperspace, led by Warlord Kator, the same commander who had once laughed at humanity's defiance. Now his pride burned hotter than his fury. They think they can challenge the Eternal Empire? He hissed. Then we show them what eternity means. At the Battle of Sigmarift, 50 more warships met 30 human and allied vessels. The battle raged for 2 days. Human losses were heavy, but so were the enemies. Then in the final hour, the UES Dauntless made a desperate maneuver, diving straight into the Moor flagship's formation. Her rail cannons fired point blank. For Earth, shouted Admiral Reed. For all of us. The Dauntless slammed into the Moor flagship, detonating her reactor. The explosion lit up the sky like a second sun. When the smoke cleared, both ships were gone. Silence fell across the comms. Then Captain Wilson's voice came through, calm and steady. All ships, The enemy flagship is destroyed. The Admiral's sacrifice wasn't in vain. Now, finish this. And they did. Milky Way aftermath, the turning tide. Months passed. Humanity and its allies pushed deeper into more space, one world at a time. The invincible empire began to crumble. On the liberated world of Elera, children who had never seen the stars now waved human flags. On Earth, for the first time in history, the entire planet stood united. No borders, no nations, only one people. Velen stood beside President Anna Lee as new fleets launched into the void. "When you humans came, we thought you would be our saviors," Velen said softly. "But now, I see you are something else entirely." Lee turned to him. "What's that?" Velen's eyes glowed faintly. "You are the reckoning." High voltage, the final message. As the camera pans over Earth's night sky, thousands of ships rise like glowing stars. Their engines ignite, lighting up the horizon. A transmission goes out, not to allies, not to enemies, but to everyone listening. This is the voice of humanity. We were born in darkness, forged by struggle, united by loss. You came to our home seeking help, and we answered. To the Moors, you wanted a war. You will have one. And when it ends, your empire will be nothing but ashes scattered among the stars. The message fades. Shooting star end scene. Far away in the throne world of the Moors, the warlord sits alone in the shadows. The transmission ends, and for the first time he feels something alien to him: doubt. Outside his window the stars flicker. But they are not stars. They are ships. Human ships. Approaching. The screen fades to black. Text appears. They begged for help. Humanity answered, with total war. Music swells, a deep, rising orchestral theme, as the story ends on the glowing reflection of Earth, now the brightest light in the galaxy.